Hey everybody, this is Seth from the REtipster blog, and I'm really excited for this. I'm having a chance to sit down with Luke Harris, and Luke has been a follower of the blog. He's been a member of the REtipster club for the past year, and he's one of those guys where, he's just had a lot of really good, helpful things to say in the forum, and he's also done really, really well in the business. I didn't realize how well he was doing until he emailed me and just told me about some of his experiences, and it's pretty impressive. He's done a really good job. So I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to sit down with somebody who's been working on the business and just get his perspective on things that are and are not working for him, and just different lessons he's learned along the way. And it's funny, there's always things that I learn from these conversations, and I'm sure there's things that lots of other people can learn too by watching. So, but Luke, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to sit down. So I guess I'll just get started. Tell us your story. Like, how did you first hear about land investing? What made you decide to jump in and give it a shot?
So basically, I'm a forester, and I worked in forestry consulting for a while.
Sure.
Me and my wife both enjoy homesteading and farming and that type of thing, and we've always wanted to own property of our own. And particularly since I'm a forester, I want to own a large chunk of land that I can manage sustainably and harvest the timber off of, and just basically make a living is kind of my hope eventually off of the land. So obviously to do that, you need either a lot of money or a way to get the land inexpensively. Mm-hmm. So I was in grad school, and I ended up dropping out of that after a semester. Academia wasn't really my thing, but and so after that, I kind of sat down. I was like, so how can I make this happen? How can I get a large chunk of land? When I thought about going back into consulting, forestry, which I still do, my brother's a logger. I thought, maybe I could partner up with him. And then I thought about other options kind of related to forestry and real estate and stuff like that, and just started doing some research, and Googled, and basically ended up finding Mark Podolsky and the Land Geek thing, and then found you soon thereafter, and then signed up for the REtipster club about a year ago.
Okay.
So that's basically the story.
Man. That's awesome. So you said you're a forestry consultant. Is that right? Or that's what you were doing? Or are you still doing that right now?
Still doing. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the forestry consultant, is that do you work for a bigger company, or is this something people hire you individually to do this for them, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it's typically, the consulting is basically, actually, most of what I do is timber inventory work for large timber companies, and I go out and inventory their timber. Okay. But on a smaller scale, just any landowner that might want a timber sale done, mm-hmm. We would be kind of like a broker or like a go-between between the logger and the landowner to make sure that the landowner doesn't get ripped off, or sure. Management plans if someone just wants to know, what to do with their forest, that type of thing.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty important role. I mean, timber harvesting is something like I've always kind of known about, but I've never done it myself. But if I ever did want to pull the trigger on that, I would totally want somebody like you on my side, because somebody could totally rip me off and I'd never even know. So it sounds like a very important role to play in the process for sure. Okay, so when you got started, what was your first step? Did you just immediately start with a direct mail campaign, or how did you decide where to start working? Wait, were you living on the West Coast and then you're on the East Coast? Is that what you had said? So
we traveled around a lot. So with the forestry, my wife's a nurse, so she would get a travel nursing contract, and then I would get a contract doing timber inventory, and we did that in 3-month stints, all over the place. So we happened to be in South Carolina when I actually pulled the trigger on starting everything with this. So that's where I think it was in South Carolina. Yeah, it was actually in Florence, South Carolina, where we happened to be living at the time. Okay. And I had just gone through your whole educational thing and emailed the county, ended up getting a list for the county that we were in. I tend to just act before I do as much research as I should, which probably cost me a decent amount of money, but it also meant that I got the ball rolling pretty quickly. So yeah, that's kind of the first step that I took. But
so you got a list, you did direct mail campaign. Did you like get a lot of responses the first time, or did anything go wrong on your first shot, or did it go better than expected, or?
So that was in April is when I signed up. Probably within a month, I sent out the first mailer. We bought the first property, I think, at the end of June. So it was a lot of phone calls, talking to people on the phone. The first property we bought was in North Carolina, and actually, we haven't sold that property yet. It took a while before. Just recently, in the last week, I decided I'm just going to put it on eBay, and we're probably going to end up losing a little bit of money on it. But second property we got maybe a couple weeks later, I think it was, or a month later, and we have sold that one. That was also in North Carolina.
Okay.
But we sent out a lot of mail, a lot of postcards, probably 2,000 maybe, something like that.
Cool.
And we ended up buying 2 properties from that first blast of.
Well, so you did 2,000 on your very first campaign.
It was different counties, so I probably mailed 10 counties, something like that.
Wow, nice.
Together. I would just go through, and I didn't call any of the counties. I just emailed them to get the lists and stuff like that. And I kind of weeded them down quite a bit, took out I think a lot of them I did only out-of-state owners, and some of them just ended up being really small lists when I got to the end of it. But yeah, in the first couple months, 2-3 months, something like that, we probably sent out, I don't know exactly, about 2,000 postcards, and then ended up buying 2 properties from that. There was a few others. I sent out a lot of offers. There was a few others that I almost bought but didn't for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So yeah, that brings a couple questions to mind. You mentioned you're selling a property on eBay, or you sold one on eBay. Is that actually done, you've sold it, or is it still in process?
Nope. So the first one I posted on eBay, it was a 30-minute auction, and there's 4 days left till it closes. So I had a lot of out in Oregon, where we've done most of our stuff at this point. There was one subdivision where I had 6 properties I think we bought, and we sold 2 of them, so we had 4 left, and 2 of them are posted online, but I didn't want to flood the market with just this one subdivision. And I'd heard, with eBay you can get rid of it pretty easily. You might just not get that much money, and you can drive traffic to the website, is what I'd heard. So yeah, I tried it, and I wish I had a way of knowing how much traffic I had pushed to the website because of it, but we'll probably barely break even. I've kind of calculated each transaction is usually about $400 of expenses directly related to that transaction. So we might actually lose a little bit of money on that eBay, on our first eBay one. But yeah, I haven't actually closed on anything through eBay.
Wait, when you say lose money, how much are we talking? Thousands of dollars, or a couple $100, or $50, or what do you think?
So the North Carolina property, first one we ever bought, I think it was $800 was the purchase price. The title company closing was $700. We paid for all of that. There was $800 of back HOA fees. I think some back taxes too. Anyway, it all came out to $2,600. And the comps in the area, I think, were 8,000, something like that. And I think what it came down to is the lot ended up just not being buildable for these weird intricacies. Oh, really? It had to be an acre, I think, to be buildable in that certain area. And it's only 0.8 acres. Okay. And I just checked right before I got on the call, and the bids are up to $1,000. So, and there's still a couple weeks, 3 weeks left on it. So I don't know. Cool. Could lose $1,500 or something, but at least we'll get it off our plate. Sure.
Now, the second deal you did where you did make money on it, tell us a little bit about that. What were the numbers, and how did that pan out?
So that one was in North Carolina as well. We paid $2,600, I think, for that one, all told, and only ended up selling it for $4,400. I had tons of calls. I probably could have sold it for more, but I tend to take the route of just get it off my plate and put my money into something that I know can make money, instead of trying to wait and make sure I can really, which I don't know if that's necessarily the right way, but that's kind of the route that I've taken. Because a lot of the comps were I don't know, 20,000, 40,000. I can't remember what the lowest comp was, probably at least 20,000 on that one. And I got flooded. I mean, hundreds of people calling me, but it was pretty steep. And I think that's what turned a lot of people off. Oh, and the neighbor was very upset about the whole thing.
Oh, really?
And like chased people off when they went up to property. But yeah,
like chased him off with a gun or a broom or something, or was he like?
I don't know.
Because I've had that same kind of thing before, where neighbors will do just all kinds of weird things. Like sometimes they'll say, "Oh no, I actually own up to your, well into your property, so yeah, that's mine. You can't have it." Or they'll say like, just make up all these problems, or just, I don't think they want people to live there. They kind of just want it to be empty, and so I'm assuming that's what's going on. But what was this person so angry about?
I think he just didn't want neighbors close by, and he just seemed like it's way back up the mountain in the,
Did you ever talk to him about buying the property?
Yeah, I did. I always send out neighbor letters. That's a huge tip that I got from the REtipster blog or club. Yeah. So, and I've sold a number of properties doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And this particular guy was not interested in that, I take it.
No, he wasn't. He was like saying stuff like they wanted to sell it to me for like $250 or something, and that it would cost $100,000 to put in a road to the property. And he just, I don't know. He sounded like he was just angry at life. But I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that out there. I mean, something I probably should have mentioned earlier are just some of the numbers you shared with me. It sounds like, according to the email you sent me a few days ago, you've sold 21 deals, 18 for cash, 3 on terms, and you gross somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 in sales, in which you paid 50,000 for. So you basically doubled your money on average. So, it's interesting because at least that first deal that you mentioned, that's the kind of thing where a lot of people might be turned off by that if they buy a property, or if things don't pan out exactly like they planned. Or really, if anything, if the wind blows in the wrong direction, it's like, this doesn't work, forget about it. What made you keep going?
Basically, I just knew that it was exactly what I wanted to do. And you obviously have successfully done it, other podcasts, and I knew that a lot of other people were being successful doing it. So I knew that it was just a matter of time that I had to put the effort in and make it work, and ends up we have. So
awesome. That's great, man. So how have you been getting your properties sold? Like, what mediums have you typically been using? What's been most effective for you?
So we have a little list of places that I post them. Craigslist works great, but I have a lot of trouble keeping the ads posted. They get flagged and deleted. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have trouble with that? Or do you use Craigslist much?
The biggest trouble I have is just like remembering to get in there and do it. I know there's like software out there that can automatically do it for you, which I've been meaning to look into for the longest time. I've just had other things on my plate, but as far as the flagging and deleting thing, there was a time I did have issues with that, but I haven't lately at all. And I don't know if it's because I'm basically like rewriting the entire ad from scratch every time I do it in a new market, and it's a different headline. Other than like the pictures, I try to like make it fairly different. And I think people can manually flag it if it's like not in that market. But in terms of like the Craigslist system, I haven't had any issues with that. How many markets are you posting it in when you do it?
For each specific property, just one.
Just one?
Just one.
Really? So why are they getting flagged and deleted? What's the issue?
I don't know. Honestly, like I've tried all kinds of stuff. One person said, it's not for sale by owner because you're a business, but obviously it is because I own the property. Put it in the broker section. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm going to try like a shorter. They said, you have this ad that makes it sound really good, and it's a lot of generalities. You need to like give more specific facts about the property, like zoning and stuff like that. So I've started trying to find really detailed information about the properties. But yeah, a lot of them get deleted, and I don't know if it's because I'm posting a lot of them. Like I'll have like 10 at one time in my Craigslist account.
Okay.
But yeah, I've had a lot, and I had other people too that I talked to about it have had trouble, so I'm not sure what it is.
Weird. I wonder if that's like maybe a function of whatever market you're posting in. Maybe there's just some like crabby person who gets mad about everything, and that's weird. Yeah. At least in the places where I'm working right now, I haven't had that as of late, but that's strange. Huh. Yeah. Do you post them anywhere else other than Craigslist?
Yep. So I have a buyer's list. I'm up to like 700 people on it or something. And basically just from, properties I post, they come back to the website, put their email in. And actually the other day, just in the last week, I sent out a property to my buyers list and it sold in like 20 hours after I sent the email out. That was exciting. I didn't even post it online or anything.
That is sweet.
My website, buyers list, Craigslist, Zillow, Landpin, Landwatch. Mm-hmm. I did Lands of America, I guess it is, or Land and Farm, which I guess are kind of turning into the same thing now. But I did Land and Farm for a while. But they're a little more expensive than Landwatch, so I'm just sticking with Landwatch for now. Those are the main places I get leads from.
And when you're talking about building this buyers list, so you've basically got links in your, Landwatch ads or in your, because like Craigslist, you can't actually embed a clickable link, but I know you can like write out whatever your URL is. So maybe people are like typing that in and coming there that way. Is that?
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if that's why my ads get flagged as putting my website in there. But I have started. Then I've talked to other people who don't get their ads flagged and they have their website in there. So I think I'm going to keep doing it. But regardless, when they email me back, I'll say in my signature or somewhere in the email, I'll say, here's our website. But yeah, basically in the ads, wherever they are, Zillow, Landwatch, it'll have our website. And
are there any like specific tools or resources that you found helpful in your business? Like what are some of the things you rely on every day to do, I don't know, things that are just really important?
Yeah. I was thinking about that last night, and Podio I use as my CRM.
Okay.
And I just had the free version, and I've built this little app that has a list of all. So I've kind of broken down the whole business into steps that basically can be done in one sitting. Mm-hmm. And there's a checklist in the app, and I, check it off on the list whenever I've completed each step. And all the information for each property is stored in there, like the information for the seller, the notary's information, even down to like how much I paid for the recording fee or how much I paid the notary. Just everything is in there, and it's worked really well for me. I would like to add a lot of cool functionality to it, but a lot of it's techie stuff that I don't really know how to do. So I might just end up getting a CRM like Investor Fuse I've heard good things about, or I don't know. There's other CRMs I've done some research on, but do you have a CRM?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually been playing around with that a little bit. I've tried Podio. I don't know, for whatever reason, it just hasn't stuck with me. Maybe I just haven't given it a good enough shot yet, but I know that's something a lot of people use. In the past, I've tried High-Rise HQ. Yeah, honestly, I've never found like a good, solid, reliable system. And it's one of the things I was actually hoping to get nailed down a little bit better this year and maybe post something, on the site about it just to kind of show people, hey, this is what I've found that's working for me. It's just that there's like so many systems out there. Like there's a ton of them. Yeah. And they all they're all sort of similar, but like they're obviously different systems. And like it's hard to find the time with everything else going on to like really take a close look at everything and give them all a fair shot and find the best one. So yeah, it's have you tried anything else other than Podio?
Not on I've Trello. I actually use Trello some too, because the virtual assistants that I
use that too all the time.
Yeah, the virtual assistants I use, they use Trello, so I had used it some before. I'd kind of like to get it all on one platform though, so I might start getting them to use Podio. But Trello seems to work well. There's a lot of things you can't do in Trello that you can do in Podio. I feel like there's a lot of the things I want to integrate are like where you click a button in Podio and it mails like an offer to somebody, or where you can click a button and it'll over the next month or two send out like auto emails or texts. There's a lot of other added functionality like that I would love. And I know you can do that with Podio, but I just don't really have the time or interest to like figure it all out on my own. And I know there's platforms where people have already done that. So I don't know. I just haven't had the time to research.
So the paid version of Podio, what's the big thing that you get that isn't with the free version, or what things that you get?
I'm honestly not sure. I know there's an app called Globiflow.
I've heard of that.
I think that's the app that allows you to do a lot of the kind of automation and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you have to, maybe you just pay for the extra apps. I'm not honestly sure, but I know you have to pay for Globiflow. And the stuff like clicking on a button to send out the mailer or send out the offers, or, a lot of the automation you have to have Globiflow for.
You mentioned your buyers list is kind of a significant thing in your business. By the way, is that like a local buyers list? Like, are all those buyers right in the markets where you've been working, or are they kind of like all over the country, or I guess it's just whoever's looking at your ads, right? They end up going to your website.
Yep. The only way I built it is just from whatever traffic has come from the ads, or maybe SEO a little bit. I don't really know. But there was a lot of people that signed up from the North Carolina properties, and I've decided to kind of shy away from working in that area, just because I found other areas have worked better for me. So there's probably still a chunk of people that signed up for properties in that area that are still on there. But yeah, I would think they're probably mostly. I sold one property in Virginia, and I want to start doing more here because that's where we're living right now. But yeah, they're probably local, but it's just whoever signed up. I didn't like send out mailers or anything to build the list, which I would like to get more investors that can be repeat buyers and stuff like that. Which if I sent out, I know you have a thing in the REtipster club about sending out postcards and stuff like that to try to generate cash buyers and stuff like that.
All kinds of ways you can do it. There's many ways to skin a cat, but so I guess you're using Investor Carrot, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, cool, and that's worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah. So I was using one of their competitors and not getting very many leads per day, as far as like buyers signing up for my email list. And then I actually was living in Roseburg, where my wife is from, Oregon, and that's where Trevor lives. And I didn't find him online. I ended up just meeting him in person.
Are you the guy that signed up at the office?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I heard him talking about that.
Yeah, Trevor's awesome. But where was I going with that thought? Then I switched to Carrot, and I don't know what it was, if I was getting just as many people coming to my website, but all I know is that after I switched to Carrot, I'm getting an average of like probably 3 to 5 people signing up for my buyers list per day.
That's awesome, dude. That's really good. So I guess and you're not paying anything for that, right? That's just either defining it organically or going through your ads that you're posting anyway. So that's a great tip. I mean, I guess we don't know if Craigslist is flagging and removing your ads for that or not, but it sounds like it's kind of worth it. I mean, if you can build a buyer's list, I mean, that's a valuable asset to have. And if you sell properties in 20 hours, I mean, hey, it's probably worth the trouble to do whatever you have to send people there.
And it's really consistent too. Like the 700 people has all been from that since like September or October of last year, just me not doing anything. So
man, that's sweet. So is there, I don't know, is there anything you're willing to share about how your landing page is set up? Is it just like one single page? Is there like a video on it, or are you saying something special that's compelling them to sign up?
Yeah. So it really was all Trevor and Carrot. Like I just did the basic stuff. I honestly don't know all of their, magic that they put into it. I just know it works. I didn't really do a whole lot. I think they do have a template specifically for land investors now. But I think I have a buying site and a selling site. I think I used a house version, and I had to go through and switch everything to land.
Sure.
That's not something I've really delved into a lot, and I guess that's kind of where I'm relying on Carrot and their expertise to make that work. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and for anybody who's watching this, and if you're interested in Investor Carrot, I'll put a little REtipster affiliate link to their website beneath this video so you can check it out. Sounds like what they're doing is working. So that's encouraging. It's great to hear. So you've been at this now for a year and a half, something like that?
A year.
Okay.
A year. I was listening to the podcast starting like March of last year, and then I actually signed up with the REtipster Club in, I think it was like April of last year. So basically, and then sent out my first mailer, I guess in maybe May last year. And then first property we actually sold wasn't until September of last year.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I think it was you mentioned that did you run into some competition in Oregon or something like that, where you had heard of other people sending mailers to the same places that you were?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of duplicate.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of the podcasts, people like try to make it sound like there's not competition, but there's so many educators coming in. I feel like there's some competition,
I've actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, I've been trying to think of ways to deal with that and, have a competitive edge, but
yeah. When you've run into that kind of competition, were you doing blind offers, and were you getting your list from a list service, or were you getting it from the county, or what was the circumstances when you've encountered those competitors?
That's when I go to RealQuest, and I've just gotten, I'll say like, okay, I want 5-acre properties, or maybe like 3 to 8-acre properties in X county. Download the list for every single property, and then I don't really delete much out of it. I keep it I delete all the duplicates, I delete government addresses, and then just send out actual offers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know all the rhyme or reason or when and how competitors come into the woodwork, but I do know I've been sending out blind offers as well, and I too have encountered competitors, and I never did until I started doing that method, and I don't know if it's because I'm using that or if it's just because of the time where there's just more people on the market now. Yeah, but I kind of feel like maybe I don't know if it's because when everybody's pulling from the same data source and when they're sending out a higher volume of mail, and they're all doing the same thing, and we all know that it's going to take a higher volume of offers to get this, a higher number of acceptances. I mean, just when you do the math, there's more mail flying around in the world, and that's just kind of when it's more likely to happen. But I mean, is it something where you're encountering competitors in like certain counties but not others, or are you encountering them everywhere, or like how common has it been for you to see that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I've kind of focused on just a few counties now, and that's one big thing that I'm realizing. It's because I've tried this in a number of different areas, and it's a different set of criteria for each area. I've kind of found different due diligence a little bit, different pricing is kind of a big thing, and you make a lot of mistakes each time you enter a new market. So I've kind of focused in just on these specific counties and certain. I think I'm going to start focusing more on specific property sizes, but I kind of feel like this is something that I kind of think a lot of the duplicate offers in competition are maybe on smaller properties, because all these people that are starting out are mailing smaller properties, and there's not very much of a margin on smaller properties. A lot of mine, like one of the last mailers I sent out was for even like less than an acre properties, and making like a few $100 on each deal, and it's just not worth it. So I'm thinking if I switch to larger deals, it'll be less work for me, make more money, and maybe the competition will be a little bit less. But one thing I was thinking too is that if I get back to my leads quicker, because they end up sitting in my CRM file, a lot of them, and they probably get kind of turned off that I'm not like getting back to them. But sometimes I just don't have the time, or I just don't have the money to buy the deals, so I kind of have to wait. But if I'm a little more strategic about sending out a mailer when I have the time and the resources to buy all the deals, or maybe sending out smaller mailers, just being super prompt on getting back to people, I feel like that could really give you a competitive edge too. Yeah.
So when you say they're sitting in your CRM, are they like calling you and leaving you a voicemail, or are they emailing you, or are they like how do they respond to you? And then like how, if you had the time, how would you respond to them? Would you just call them on the phone, or how does that work?
I like it best when people do email, just because I can respond to them anytime I want, and I have a record of everything. It's just a lot cleaner and easier for me. So I tend to, for no specific reason other than it's easier for me, to buy all the deals from people that have emails first.
Oh, cool.
And then, but I have a Google Voice. I have a fax number, email. Those are, and I have this is actually another tool you're asking about, like tools I use. When we were traveling around a lot, we got, I guess you would call it maybe like not really a virtual mailbox, but a mailbox a mailing service where all our mail gets sent to, and they scan our mail, and then we can look at it online. Yeah. So that's another venue where we get, they'll be scanned there. And
which service are you using for that?
It's called escapees.com. It's basically for like RV people who travel around, but it's worked well for us. And I think it might actually be a bit cheaper. Their pricing is kind of broken up into different categories. It's not like one clean price per month, but I think it might actually be cheaper than a lot of the other options out there. But
like how much is it?
$110 per year.
Oh, really? That's not bad, man.
But then like, or 115, I think. But then there's other things like your postage. So every time they ship you a package of mail, obviously you have to pay for that, and that doesn't come out of the original cost. And then scanning, I think, is another $10 per month. But I think that's it. So it probably comes out to like 20, depending on how many times you have them ship you mail, $20-$30 a month maybe.
So if I wanted to be a jerk, I could put together a big box full of rocks and mail it to your thing, and then they'll mail it to you. Charge you $100.
Yeah. Oh. Well, you can select when they mail stuff to you, or if it gets mailed to you. It's not just an auto thing. So
I got you. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's a great tip. I had heard of iPostal, and I've heard I've actually used Earth Class Mail before, and It was not that cheap. It was a lot more, and it just logistically it made sense. It wasn't hard for me to get to my physical mailbox on site, but it could be a great solution for people who either can't get to one, or they can't find one, or they just don't want to spend their time going back and forth to the mailbox. So like, what's your long-term plan at this point? I mean, you've seen that the business can work. It sounds like you're kind of dialing into your core property types and sizes that do you have like, I don't know, would you say you've got like a core 10 counties that you always go back to and you know you can get results there, or are you not quite there yet? Are you still sort of exploring where you want to work long-term?
Really just a few counties, 2 or 3, one that I've done a ton in, and then I'm slowly expanding out from there. I wouldn't say I've been burned, but when I've tried to spread out a lot, like I said earlier, I've used up a lot of resources and not gotten a huge return. So I'm really trying to dial in on a specific property type. But then as far as our long-term goal, I'm kind of dialing in on the specific property type and then just growing it out from there. Eventually the goal is to own, our goal is 1,000 acres of timberland. Hopefully, next 5 or 6 years. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but, and right now the property types we're doing are not timberland. Timberland would be a lot more expensive and we don't really have the resources for that. So I figure I'm kind of growing our resources with this other property type and then hopefully switching to maybe exclusively timberland and larger deals and stuff like that. So, but that's kind of our long-term goal is timber properties.
When you said when you've tried to spread out, you've been burned, do you mean like spreading out geographically or spreading out with different types of properties, or what does that mean exactly?
Both. So we've done Western Oregon and Eastern Oregon. And actually some of the Western Oregon mailers we've done have done really well in terms of revenue generated, but there's usually less properties that we get per number of mailers we send out. And there's just been a lot of like weird shaped parcels, like really long skinny ones and ones that have like title issues and liens and stuff like that. And so like there's been some mailers we've sent out, maybe even 1,000 or more, where we've gotten a huge response, but there's not really much in there that's really worth anything for us to buy. So usually it's kind of geographically, but maybe a little bit. I think like I said earlier, I think I'm going to shy away from smaller properties too, because the smaller ones tend to be a lot more of the weird shaped parcels. And there's just less of a margin for them too. So
I'm curious, going back to that, just backtracking a few steps to the question about competition. Have you found any difference in the number of competitors you're running into in Oregon versus North Carolina versus Virginia or anything like that? Or is it kind of a similar story everywhere?
Western Oregon, I have not had much competition at all. Eastern Oregon, to be honest, this is the vast majority of the mail getting sent out is in like these desert Southwest locations. I feel like from Eastern Oregon, probably not even into Washington, all the way down through Nevada, over to Texas, down to New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah. I feel like that's where the vast majority of the mail is getting sent to. Honestly.
That's also where I've encountered any competition that I've ever encountered has been in that area of the country too. So you're not really seeing much of it on the East Coast then.
Nope, but I haven't sent out many mailers in the East. I don't think I've ever heard that. The few times I have sent mailers out in the East. No, actually, the very first mailers I sent out in South Carolina, someone did say they had gotten a postcard from somebody else.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah,
Bummer,
that was from a back tax list though. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The way I look at it is you just figure out how to deal with it and you try to become better than everybody else. And I don't know.
Moral of the story is, yes, there's competition and you've made enough to basically generate a full-time income on the side doing this. I mean, it's not like it kills the business or makes it undoable. It's sort of just like a little thorn in your side, I guess, if anything. It's not like you lose everything. It's not like you can't get deals and do business. It's just, that stinks. Oh, well, let's keep going,
Yeah. But I feel like I said, I feel like larger properties, you wouldn't have the competition, and that's really where I want to go eventually anyway. And I thought about, have you ever got investors to go in with you on deals?
You mean like bigger deals that I don't have the cash for myself? I did try to partner with another land investor on a deal before, and unfortunately it fell apart. I have talked to somebody who had lots of cash, and they were they were very interested in doing it. But basically what happened was I just didn't come across a lot of those huge, like $1 million properties on my own. So it just, I think there's a lot bigger quantity of those cheaper ones. So yeah, I mean, it's not something I've played around with much. Is that something you're looking to do though?
Yeah, I've looked into it a little bit and talked to a few people, but I don't really want to go to like a bank. I've had a few business owners that I've talked to that aren't in land investing recommend that, but I'm just really skittish of taking out an actual loan to buy property. I don't think that's really a wise decision.
I don't know that I'd ever feel comfortable with that either. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, theoretically, if you were getting at like 10% of market value, like I don't know why you'd be hurt with that, but I don't know, especially if it's a giant parcel, unless it's like farmland. I mean, it could take some time to sell that kind of thing. You know, it's like there's not a ton of buyers. I mean, it may very well sell for exactly what you want it to, but it might take a longer time to find that special buyer. So I hear you.
With timber, sometimes there are timber parcels. I haven't done this myself, but I know specific situations where people have bought. And if you're a forester and you know how to inventory the property, you could buy a property where you're virtually certain the value of timber on it is what you paid for the property. And I might feel comfortable doing that and then immediately sell it to a logger or something like that. But
so if somebody wanted to specifically target properties for the purpose of timber, which just sounds like something you're going to do, you've probably thought through this. Like, how exactly would they want to filter their list? Like, do they want certain sizes of properties, or are there certain features or things that they want to keep on or off their list? Or is it sort of a spray and pray thing, and you just hope some of those properties have timber on them?
Yeah, and so I haven't really tried this myself yet. But yeah, honestly, I think you'd probably just have to, and you might learn little tricks along the way, but some counties, I think, do have their data specified into like timber and farming and stuff like that. But I think I would just, especially to begin, you would want to focus on larger properties because it would be more of a per acre value. It wouldn't be like smaller properties wouldn't be worth any more to you on because you could build on them. So you'd want larger pieces where, on a per acre basis, you could get them cheaper because there's only X amount of timber on a property. It doesn't matter if it's smaller, and if that makes sense. But so larger properties you would want to focus on. But other than that, yeah, you probably would just have to make use of leads that would come back from the mailer that didn't have timber on them. You just have to resell them, I guess, which, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with having to do that.
Yeah. So is there like would you have to, like, are there certain regions of the country that have not been logged much, or has everything kind of been combed over at some point?
Yeah, but it grows back. So, I mean, the areas I would focus in, Pacific Northwest has a ton of timber, and that's where my wife is from, and I've lived out there some too. So we'd probably do that area, and then Virginia here. My brother is a logger, like I said, so probably like Eastern Virginia or something is where I would start. But there's all across the Southeast, and really the whole eastern part of the country has timber all over it.
Cool. But awesome. In your email to me a few days ago, you mentioned that I think you've sold 3 properties with seller financing. Is that right?
Yep.
Were those in Oregon, or where were those at?
Okay. Yep, in Oregon. Yep.
How has that process been for you? I mean, has it been a hassle to learn everything there is to know about that, or have you had any bad experiences, or people who have stopped paying you, or what was the closing process like? Tell us a little bit about that.
All 3 of them have been in Oregon. 2 of them have paid really, really well. We use simple money for all 3 of them. And they were lower value properties. The third deal, it was actually somebody who lived right next to the property, and they like desperately wanted to get it. And so we sold it to them with 0 down on owner financing, and they made 1 payment. I think this is back in like October. They made 1 payment, and they haven't paid anything since. But they just keep coming up with all these stories about why they can't make the payments. And anyway, I'm foreclosing on it, and they said they got a loan from a bank, and we're going to get cash for it, basically. So that has definitely been a little bit of a hassle, and I would like to build up. At the beginning, my idea was, let's do as many terms deals as possible and build up this monthly income, and then we started kind of running out of money, especially because the one property we're foreclosing on, we spent quite a bit on. The closing process wasn't too awful bad. Like I said, I have a tendency to kind of just jump in and do stuff before I thoroughly think it through. So there's a lot of things I would kind of want to iron out in the future a little more specifically. But but it's, we just kind of did the paperwork, and mostly thanks to the stuff that you've outlined in the REtipster Club.
Oh, good. Awesome. Now, did you, that foreclosure process on the one in Oregon, is that done now, or are you still in the process of doing that? Or
yeah, I sent out one. So I downloaded some forms from like US Legal, or I can't remember, some website like that.
Okay.
And it was specifically for Oregon, and it had like a series of letters you send. So I've sent one certified mail to them, and then I think there's like 2 or 3 more that I'm going to send out, and then the final one just says or in the property, basically.
Did you use a land contract or a deed of trust, or how did you do that?
Land contract.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I remember in my conversations with an attorney in Oregon, that's actually a pretty decent state to do seller financing. I think you can use like any loan instrument, and it's don't quote me on this, but it's just what I recall. But compared to some of the other states that make it like really stinking hard to do a lot of stuff, Oregon is on the better side for sure. So, and you, I think earlier you said on your first deal you closed with a title company. Was that right?
Yeah, some of the bigger ones we've used title companies for.
Okay.
Most of the deals we've done, I actually lined out all my deals last night because I knew I was going to be on this call and crunched all the numbers. But most of the deals have been us closing them, but a number of the larger ones have been through title companies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, all the finance deals we did ourselves. We didn't use a title company for any of those.
Did you end up using a mobile notary to do that, or how did you handle those closings?
For the
I'm sorry. Did you just send them all the documents in the mail, and like how did you collect their deposit, and like how did you get stuff notarized? Did you kind of just say, hey, this is up to you, get it notarized and send it back, or did you kind of hold their hand a little bit more with a mobile notary?
For the finance deals or for the cash deals?
For the seller finance, or I guess any of them that you've closed yourself.
So the seller finance deals, I just mailed them the contract. I think on one of them, it's been a while since I've done those, but I used DocuSign.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I think I didn't even use a notary on that specific deal, but I think the other one of them I met them in person.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the deal that I'm foreclosing on, because they were just an hour away, and so we got that notarized at a bank together. For the cash deals, a lot of them there's no contract. We just have a button on our website, and they pay for it, and and then we mail them the deed. For selling it. Of course, for buying, I find a notary in the area where they are. I email the deed to the notary, and I mail a check using an online check mailing service to physically mail the check to the notary. The notary goes with the deed and the check to the, which I think is pretty similar to how you do it, or talk about doing it, and then just meet with them, hand them the check. It makes it really easy for the seller.
Now, if I'm remembering this right, I think you're one of the, like, I don't know if there's many that fall into this category, but you've taken Mark Podolsky's course, the Land Academy course, and mine. You haven't done Jack Bosch, have you?
No, and I have not done Mark Podolsky's.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, you just heard of him through the, that was how you kind of got introduced to it?
Yeah, just his podcast and stuff.
Okay, I got you. Has it been helpful to you to kind of have like 2 different perspectives on the land investing business?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yours is a lot more detailed, and there's honestly, Land Academy is a great program, but there's a lot of holes which can be a little bit hard to fill in. Sometimes they have like a member call, but you still don't get like specific documents and stuff like that, like the really detailed stuff. And that's where it's been really helpful to get the information that you had on the REtipster Club to fill in a lot of those holes. And I don't have I've heard pretty good things about some of the other ones too, but I haven't done the others, but it definitely has been super helpful having 2 resources.
Yeah, it's we'd all probably like agree on like 80% of stuff, like from a really high level, but there's definitely things that, I think each one of us does a little bit differently. And I always think it's, I've taken all of them and I've learned little bits and pieces from each one. And it's been really helpful for me just to kind of, like, sometimes I'll even hear, a perspective of another land educator, and sometimes I'll be like, man, that's an awesome idea. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. And it doesn't really mean that they're like wrong or right. It's just, but it's good to know, like it's good to know of other ideas and options out there. And so I mean, looking back on everything you've done to date, are there any, I mean, other than what you've already mentioned, are there any like big lessons you've learned along the way from either good or bad experiences?
I guess I've really talked about a lot of them so far already, but like I said, I'm going to switch to probably larger parcels to make it's just a lot more bang for your buck. I think it helped me learning the process and making my mistakes on smaller parcels, but now that I kind of know how everything works, I think it's so much more worthwhile doing larger parcels and then just honing in on my acquisition criteria. I don't know if that's specifically related to your question you just asked, but when I've tried, I've already said this several times, but it just having very specific set of criteria to adhere to, I feel like has helped a lot. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's something I remember from college. One of my professors used to say is like, if you're going to fail or if you're going to screw something up, like do it fast. Because I think most of us start this way, start doing really cheap, small properties. It's like those are great to learn on. And the mistakes will happen. So it's like, if they're going to happen, they might as well happen on a smaller scale than like, I hear this a lot from people where like they kind of hear how I approach it. And like, I try to do just a handful of deals per year that are all big and notable that make lots of money. And people are like, that's what I want to do starting right now. And it's like, man, like it doesn't work quite that simply. Like I'm only able to do this because like I've sort of paid my dues and I understand what to look out for. And it sounds like you're kind of getting to that point too. So I think you can totally do that. But like, if you just try to like open up the gates and do that on day one, it's kind of sort of dangerous, I think. Like the mistakes you're going to make are going to sting a lot more.
I think your question was what mistakes have I made? I'm trying to think of specific mistakes that I made. One time I mailed a county and there was personal property mixed in with the
like equipment or something, or
like cars and stuff. And all these people were calling me, and but I ended up buying a property from that mailing. That was one of the North Carolina ones. But
so you're saying on the list it included people who didn't even own real estate, but they had delinquent taxes on personal property.
Yep.
Wow, I'm actually surprised I've never run into that. Like I totally get how that can happen, but I've never seen that before.
It was a list that this specific county had the data available on their website for you to download.
Oh, and so that's how you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So I just downloaded it, but yeah, anyway.
No, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if anybody else is watching this and they're either just getting started with the land business or maybe they're just kind of looking at it from afar thinking, I wonder if there's something here. Is there any specific advice you would give them?
There's a lot to learn. So obviously find somebody who has done it, and purchasing some kind of a educational program is, in my mind, pretty much 100% must unless you have some kind of a mentor that is willing to just stand over your shoulder and help you out with everything. And then once you have that, I feel like just putting your nose to the grindstone and working super hard and not getting down with obstacles or anything like that. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it's really, if you have those two things, I feel like you can make it work. Yeah.
Sure. How much time would you say it's taken you, like in this first year? Like, have you been spending like 20 hours a week or 5 hours a week? Or if somebody's trying to do this on a part-time basis, which most of us are when we get started, how much did you have available to work the business?
I had a lot of time available. I was doing mostly contract work, and I had a lot of sections of time where I was able to do this full time. Okay. And it honestly led to me not using my time very efficiently.
Like, would you say like 40 hours a week? Or like, does it kind of just vary depending on what jobs you had going on?
Right now, probably I'm working like 50 hours a week. So probably 3 hours, 5 days a week right now, probably.
Okay.
But there's been times where I've worked 80 hours a week in it, honestly. So, which just because I had sections of time available to me.
Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger struggles for most people is just finding the time to do it. That's kind of a nice luxury most people don't have is, having occasional big chunks of time like that.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of cash set aside when you were getting started? Like, did you really have to pinch pennies or did you have, adequate funding to work with?
So I was doing contract timber inventory work and we were paying our bills from my income. And my wife is a travel nurse. So we basically put all of her income for a period of time into starting the land business. So we did have a pretty significant chunk of money to get started with.
Are you trying to build up more seller financed income, or is that kind of like, has your experience so far changed your mind on how you want to do that?
Yeah, we do want to keep building more seller finance deals, specifically to cover our fixed expenses in the business and stuff like that. For some reason, I've posted a lot of the ones recently on seller financing, and I haven't heard a lot back from people. I think it's because they're just tiny little properties, and I'm requiring large down payments, so I don't have the issue with having to foreclose on people. So that's probably what's causing it. But
okay.
But yeah, we definitely do want to do more seller finance deals.
Cool, man. Well, hey, Luke, I really appreciate your time talking with me today. I've learned some great insights from you. I'm sure other people have too. You don't have to do this, but do you want to plug a website or anything where people can find out more about you, or is that not really?
Yeah, so we have our website where we sell property is thefarmfinders.com.
Okay.
And that's where we have all our properties listed.
Is that where your buyer's list building website is too? Okay, sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I'll include a little link to that in the description below. And yeah, feel free to look up Luke and see what he's got going on. Cool. Well, thanks again. Appreciate everybody who's watching this. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.